While the world is distracted, watching oil prices bounce around on digital ticker tapes, there's a far more dangerous monopoly that's silently seizing control of the literal ground beneath your feet. And no, we're not talking about real estate here. We are talking about the very biochemical foundation of human survival. A highly secretive, tightly woven cartel now dictates the global supply of crop nutrients, and they've transformed basic soil fertility into a devastating geopolitical weapon. This is our explainer on the global fertilizer oligopoly.
We're going to break down the evidence in this dossier into 5 distinct phases. First, we'll look at the chemical chokehold, followed by how they profit from artificial scarcity. From there, we'll examine the weaponization of the soil, the resulting agricultural debt traps, and finally, how we might actually break this monopoly loop.
The chemical chokehold.
To really understand this bottleneck, we have to look at the deliberate transition away from traditional agriculture and into a chemically dependent industrial model. You see, for centuries, farming operated on this beautiful closed-loop system of natural nourishment. But today it mandates an absolute addiction to proprietary chemical blends. Modern crop yields completely rely on the continuous application of synthesized macronutrients, specifically nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Without them, global agricultural output would literally collapse by 50%, and that absolute reliance creates a severe vulnerability, which brings us to the defining question of our era. Who actually controls the soil?
70%. That is the exact share of global phosphate reserves residing within a single national jurisdiction, the Kingdom of Morocco. Extracted by a state-owned corporate monopoly known as OCP Group, it is the fundamental material foundation of global food security, and it's governed by a solitary strategic gatekeeper.
But that concentration of power extends way beyond just phosphate. Take a look at the nitrogen sector. Just 4 corporations, Nutrien, CF Industries, Koch, and Yara, collectively control roughly 82% of nitrogen-based fertilizers. On top of that, Mosaic and Nutrien together control about 90% of all North American production capacity for both phosphate and potash. We are looking at an oligopoly that totally dwarfs the influence of traditional energy cartels because they are dictating the fundamental inputs of human survival.
Section 2. Profiting from artificial scarcity.
Now we shift to the financial evidence to see exactly how this highly consolidated cartel manipulates global supply chains. $84 billion. That's the combined profit captured by the world's top fertilizer companies between 2021 and 2022 alone. And to be clear, this massive financial windfall didn't come from some sudden expansion in mining output or from some groundbreaking technological innovation. No, it was extracted directly from a highly managed, incredibly volatile spike in global fertilizer prices.
What we're looking at here is a chilling mathematical reality known as cost-price decoupling. Between 2021 and 2024, wholesale prices for key fertilizer products tripled. In some cases, they actually quadrupled. But here's the catch. The manufacturer's core extraction and energy costs, those held steady or even fell during the same period. So what's the result? Record corporate profits stacked directly against a nearly 30% collapse in global farmer net incomes.
And the macroeconomic impact on importing nations is absolutely devastating. These countries are being subjected to severe balance of payments pressures. If you look at the classified data points from the 2021 to 2022 price spike, the United Kingdom was actually forced to pay an additional $144 million just to maintain its baseline fertilizer imports. Brazil? They paid an extra $3.5 billion. Sovereign wealth is quite literally being drained just to satisfy cartel pricing.
And look, the evidence of market manipulation here isn't just circumstantial. In 2026, the United States Department of Agriculture Deputy Secretary Stephen Vaden publicly stated that major producers had been colluding to constrain fertilizer supply and intentionally drive up farmer costs. Following those specific accusations, the Department of Justice opened a formal investigation into industry-wide price fixing. This isn't just business. It's the structural architecture of yield control.
Section 3. The weaponization of the soil.
The manipulation of global food security goes way beyond corporate finance. It extends right into sovereign weaponization. What we are witnessing right now is the deployment of phosphate diplomacy. It's basically the raw statecraft of the dinner plate. Morocco's OCP Group leverages its near monopoly on phosphate exports to extract sovereign political concessions. And governments in Lima and Nairobi have experienced this mechanism firsthand. The suspension or the resumption of fertilizer shipments from OCP Group correlated directly with their respective diplomatic stances on recognizing Moroccan sovereignty over the disputed territory of Western Sahara.
Just look at the global export hierarchy. Morocco sits totally unopposed at the very top. This kind of total structural reliance on a solitary strategic gatekeeper exposes a truly severe vulnerability for the rest of the world. Because while modern economies are working hard to substitute fossil fuels with renewable energy, there is no synthetic substitute for phosphorus. None. It represents a hard, immovable material limit.
The data here reveals an irreversible strategic asymmetry. Historically, we saw European powers consolidate preeminence by securing unhindered access to the resources of the global south. But today, massive agricultural powerhouses like India and Brazil are completely reliant on the geological wealth of just a few exporting nations. In this scenario, geography has completely triumphed over history, and geology has proven to be far more stubborn than ideology.
Section 4. Agricultural debt traps.
Moving from macroeconomic strategy right down to the ground-level consequences, we have to look at the chilling mechanism being deployed in Madagascar. Keep in mind, this is a nation where half the pediatric population already suffers from chronically inadequate diets. So, under international development programs, customary land tenure is formalized into official certificates. Then, those certificates are systematically used as collateral by local farmers to secure microfinance credit lines, just so they can afford these high-cost chemical fertilizers. And what happens when crop yields fail due to late rains or volatile markets? The farmers can't service the debt. The end result is the irreversible loss of sovereign land rights to credit institutions. Sovereign earth is systematically being converted into corporate collateral.
Even in developed nations, we see a similar macroeconomic paradox. It's called the government payment trap. When state governments step in and issue massive safety net subsidies to try and shield farmers from this cartel pricing, those public funds are almost immediately capitalized into future cropland values. It just inflates real estate and operating debts instead of actually reducing the farm's expenses. It's a vicious cycle that forces growers into an even deeper structural dependency on high-input chemical farming, which is ultimately driving a massive surge in farm bankruptcies.
Section 5. Breaking the monopoly loop.
But the mathematics of extreme centralization almost always breeds decentralized resistance. And to bypass these global shipping bottlenecks and corporate pricing algorithms, a closed-loop technological resistance is finally starting to form. Step 1 is implementing decentralized phosphorus recovery directly from urban wastewater, essentially treating our municipal systems as viable mines. Step 2 involves developing localized biofertilizers through independent agricultural cooperatives, which completely bypasses the need for industrial processing. And Step 3 is reclaiming indigenous seed varieties to shatter our reliance on proprietary, chemically addicted genetics.
Because as long as this structural dependency on chemical inputs remains, our global food supply chain is going to be incredibly vulnerable to collusive pricing, artificial scarcity, and asymmetric sovereign diplomacy. The very ground beneath your feet has been financialized and it's been weaponized. So I'll leave you with this. In a world where a hidden monopoly controls the soil, who truly owns your next meal?